Hello everyone, bringing you a video today looking at these. And these are a pair of 1944 pattern basic pouches, which are the basic pouches for the 1944 pattern web equipment, as the name suggests. The 1944 pattern web equipment is quite an interesting design. Of course, it wouldn't see use during the Second World War, that's important to note, despite being designated 1944 pattern. It did see use in the Far East post-war, and it would become something of a unit issue for airborne and Gurkha units as well. Quite an interesting web equipment. It wasn't general issue, though that was part of the initial intention. It seems it didn't become general issue, it was theatre issue. And the pouches were designed essentially to overcome a problem with the 1937 pattern equipment, and that is capacity. So they're big, they're quite large, they've got a good capacity. I think they'll hold 3 Bren mags each rather than 2. Certainly I've managed to get 3 Bren magazines into them, so they are bigger and greater capacity to give you greater ammunition carrying capacity. So they differ as well in being handed, so you have a left hand pouch here and a right hand pouch here, and the difference of course is that the left hand pouch, in a design that would be carried over to the 1958 pattern, has loops on the side to take a bayonet. This of course means that you're carrying the bayonet up above the waist, and it won't smack against your thigh, smack against your leg, which is, from a comfort point of view, is a good thing. Also frees up space on the belt to carry a machete, an important part of equipment that was used in the Far East. So not all bayonets could be carried up here at the time of 1944 pattern's conception, of course, because the rifle No. 1 Mark III was still in service at the end of the war, at the end of the Second World War. So a frog was also included, but that's a separate thing entirely. The pouch was designed to take short bayonets like the spike for the No. 4, for example. Just looking at the left-hand pouch here to look at the overall design features, because the right-hand pouch only differs in lacking these loops. You can see at the front here we have a quick release fastening, as had been introduced in later, or as had been seen on later basic pouches of the 1937 pattern equipment. And you can see this one differs here, and it actually has 2 adjustment loops on the inside of the pouch here. So a difference there, and you can see this example is dated. This one's not very clearly stamped, unfortunately. I think the other one might be a little bit more clearly stamped. You can see the stamp in the lid there. I'll just check on this one, see if this one's a little bit clearer. That is a little bit clearer there. So you can see MECO, hopefully you can see MECO 1945 in the top of the flap there. The design is otherwise similar in that it's supported with a buckle at the top, which the brace passes through, and then it clips onto the belt using C-clips here at the bottom. There is an element of extra support which was missing on the 1937 pattern, in that the haversack, when worn on the back, has a strap that passes around the lower part of the rib cage and through these little loops on the back, and that gives extra support to the pouches and holds the top up against the chest. So when carrying the heavier load that these could accommodate, they did have a tendency to sag away from the body if that wasn't used. It wasn't often used, but it was a part of the design feature to basically get over that problem, much as it was basically too much hassle to bother with in the field, it seems, for most people. Of course, you do have a drainage eyelet in the bottom, which was a common feature with the late production 1937 pattern pouches. And the design is otherwise very similar in the point of view of where all the seams and everything are and overall construction. In contrast, of course, it's made of a green SCC 19 is the official colour designation. SCC 19 finish, and it's also rot-proofed as well. The cotton webbing, much as it is made of cotton, it's rot-proofed for use in tropical environments. You have a very somewhat expanded design of the flap as well, with big weather flaps on the side. But it was found that one of the problems was these would ruck up, and actually they weren't stiff enough to actually seal the sides of the lid there. That was one problem that was noted with the design when it went into trials. Fittings are no longer made of brass, of course, they're made of aluminium, although there are certain components of 1944 pattern out there that have blackened brass fittings, the green example. There's also a tan example with brass fittings, but that's a topic for another video. That was a trials set that didn't go into full production. There are some elements of the green set which have blackened brass fittings in certain areas, mostly webbing tips and things on straps and so forth, but they're not the norm by any means. Most fittings are anodized or painted aluminium, and painted in this instance. You can see there's sort of a brown painted finish which is a little bit chipped on the fittings here, same on the hooks and on the 2 parts of the quick release as well, quite heavily worn there. But these are a set of first issue pouches. Now, one of the problems with these is they can only be worn high on the belt, and very high on the belt at that. The C-hooks sit very low, which means you can't really effectively wear these using the hooks without any form of support at the top of the pouch. An expedient method of dealing with this can be seen on this right hand pouch, and you can see actually the stamping, the right hand mark on the back there. This again is another early issue pouch, another Miko 1945, nice clear stamp in the lid there. But this differs only in showing an example of how this problem was dealt with in the field, and it's actually been slit up the sides here, as you can see my fingers poking through there, which means you can slot it onto a belt and it can hang low on a belt without any upper support, which means you can wear it without the braces, so it can just be worn on belt order with nothing chafing on the shoulders or anything like that, which again, it's a modification quite commonly seen in the field late in the middle to latter years of the Malayan emergency and on into Borneo. Not uncommon to see pouches modified to sit in this way. But in the mid-1960s, design was introduced, a new design of these pouches was introduced, which basically answered this problem or was a response to this field modification, and we'll have a look at those now. And here we can see two examples, obviously a pair of these second issue pouches. And on the left here we have the left hand pouch, still retains the loops on the side for the bayonet, and the right hand pouch here which is devoid of them but otherwise the same design. And you can see on the back of these a change has been made. I'll put the left hand pouch down for the moment. You can see on the back we have not only two sets of hooks now, lower and upper, the lower in the same place as they were originally, and then we have another set above. We actually also have a belt loop, which means they can be worn very low on the belt. We have two belt loops, in fact, one lower and one upper. The upper belt loop also serves the purpose of taking the strap from the haversack around the chest should you wish to wear it that way. As I say, not common. Otherwise, the features of the pouch are exactly the same. It's the same dimensions, same buckle and everything at the top. You can wear these the same manner high on the belt with the braces supporting them, but there is obviously that official recognition of the need for these to be able to be worn low on the belt. And this is a feature which had been seen much earlier on things like the Canadian 1951 pattern, where they'd made two positions, two sets of belt loops so it could be worn low on the belt, the pouches from that set. So this is something that in other Commonwealth countries had been done previously. But I imagine this was probably in British service a response to field modification of existing items. In terms of when these later design of pouches were introduced, a little bit unclear. There was a second pattern of haversack introduced as well, and there's a sealed pattern example of that dated 1965, and that would seem to give an idea that these pouches were introduced in 1965. This example here, the more faded example, the left-hand pouch, hopefully you'll be able to see this, is dated 1967, as you can see there, and again manufactured by Miko, and it now has, of course, the NATO stock code underneath as well, just for points of interest. And the right-hand pouch has a date of 1974, and again is made by Miko. Hopefully you can see there, so a very late manufacture, and again has the NATO stock number underneath there. The very nice clear stamp on that, so hopefully you can see that clearly. And these, by contrast, have anodized fittings, aluminium anodized fittings, as opposed to the painted finish. You can perhaps see on the back here, particularly clear to see the green finish on these C-hooks on the back. So that's a look at the British 1944 pattern basic or ammunition pouch, and the name would actually change from basic pouches, which is a hangover from the 1937 pattern equipment, the pouches of which were referred to as basic pouches, through to post-war nomenclature, and it was tidied up a bit so that the cataloguing system worked a bit better, because obviously the new 1958 pattern had ammunition pouches, not basic pouches, so things would be catalogued together. It made sense to rename the pouches the 1944 pattern equipment. So the nomenclature changes in the Cold War era. I do hope you found that interesting, as I always say. If so, then please do consider subscribing. If you've already subscribed, then make sure you've hit the notification button, the little bell, obviously that notifies you when I upload future videos. There's also a Facebook and Instagram page, which is a good place to keep up with what's going on with the channel and various other things going on, reenacting events and so forth. So make sure to check those out, links in the description. And as I say, that's everything I wanted to cover in the video. So until next time, bye for now.